What is up, guys? It's Adam, aka Marv, and this is Marfoogle News. For the first time in a long time, I'm actually nervous about this particular show. We are actually going to talk about several things, but mostly we believe we have proof that they know something is coming. And we will show you exactly what we mean. Let's see here. If you've never been here before, this is a live show. It is normally used for emergency broadcasts. Over on our other channel, we do a live call-in show. This has replaced that. We have spent a lot of time looking and double-checking and triple-checking to make sure that, does this look like it really looks? I'm going to talk about a lot of current events, and then I am going to bring in the fact is Timothy Cunningham, the CDC, Atlanta. I feel like nothing was closed on that last year. In fact, on Timothy Cunningham, there was a lot of questions to be answered about that, and it was very creepy, to say the least. They kind of closed the doors and finally said it was a suicide. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let me remind you that where he worked at the Atlanta CDC was one out of the two places where they kept smallpox. Now, smallpox is going to play a big part of today's episode. Mind you, the only other place that stored smallpox exploded last week. And there's even more that goes with this. Dex, I want to make sure I've got Dex here live. He normally screens calls. He's going to be here. We have both done a lot of research on this, so we're going to back and forth kind of tell you what we have. We did have an inside source essentially tell us that there is something bigger than anyone knows, and we're going to kind of walk you through what we think. At least we can say what is being alleged by some of the sources out there. And it is, it's very chilling. It's bone chilling. So again, Dex, let me just do a sound check there. Are you available? And we can hear you.
Hello, Adam.
All
yes,
right.
I am here. Hello.
Okay, so we have spent pretty much all day going through some of these things and, kind of checking and double checking. We're going to get pretty much right into it. As long as everybody can hear you. What do you have to say before we start here? Would you say that this is pretty nuts?
Yeah, it's extremely scary. I mean, a lot of dots that we've connected in this research, and it's eye opening for sure.
So I'm going to get into it without further waiting. We wanted to bring in the Georgia Guidestones because it has always been a very creepy mystery. The Georgia Guidestones, of course, is a granite monument that was erected in 1980 by an anonymous man using the pseudonym of Robert C. Christian. The monument is located in Elbert County, about 90 miles east of Atlanta. Atlanta seems to have so many weird things about it, by the way. In fact, people have done just a ton of videos about how weird Atlanta truly is. It says, due to the secretive nature in which the monument was commissioned and the ominous inscriptions on the monument itself, the Georgia Guidestones have been subject to many conspiracy theories over the years. One can only imagine that the sick and debased mind that could have come up with the following 10 guidelines for humanity. It says one, and one is a very important one. And by the way, I know starting this off with the Georgia Guidestones might people have people going, yeah, whatever. Oh, trust me, it gets crazy. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So just to remind you, there's about 7.5 billion people. There's 500 million people is half of 1 billion. So that would essentially mean we would have to go along with these guidelines on this creepy ass stone, would have to get rid of 7 billion people. Now, it says to guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity, unite humanity with a living new language. rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. 6, let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. 7, avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. 9, prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. And 10, be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. So in those 10 have always been very creepy to a lot of people. It almost sounds like some sort of future robot, wrote this thing. There's been many movies that kind of have this theme that, humans are destroying the earth, and tons of movies where the robots wipe out the humans because we're just kind of the scum on the earth, whatever. But we're going to talk about some real facts today that should scare the crap out of you. And we'll get right into that. Smallpox, again, not as many people know about it now because it's not a daily thing. I was just talking to my aunt and uncle earlier today. They stopped by, and my uncle was saying that he actually got V-nated against smallpox. Of course, I can't say the regular word because it's an absolute trigger word, and I think I know why now. See, there's certain things that they do not want you talking about. This is one of them, and the connections that we've made are very, very bone-chilling. It says the history of smallpox extends into prehistory. The disease likely emerged in human population about 10,000 BC. So it's been around for thousands of years. The earliest credible evidence of smallpox is found in the Egyptian mummies of people who died some 3,000 years ago. Smallpox has had a major impact on world history, not least because indigenous populations of regions where smallpox was non-native, such as Americas and Australia, were rapidly decimated and weakened by smallpox, along with the other introduced diseases. So, just wanted to throw this in here because this is not a new thing, and what is absolutely even crazier is that this was eradicated in I want to say it says it was eradicated in December of 1979. In 1980, the World Health Organization, which we're actually going to show you some more stuff from them as well, essentially declared it eradicated from the entire earth. Now, there's only 2 spots in the entire world that still have smallpox and other things like the bubonic plague, anthrax, and such other. One of them is where Timothy Cunningham worked over in Atlanta at the main center for CDC control, Center for Disease Control, and the Russian lab in Kosovo, which is also used for weaponized, biochemicals, all sorts of stuff. So we're going to get into that as well. Let's see here. And some of this is just absolutely mind-bendingly weird. So I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna show you this. Hold on. Let's see here. Okay, so meanwhile, I wanted to make sure I keep on track on this because this is a lot of information all in a short time period. It says smallpox was one of the deadliest diseases in human history. Between 20% and 60% of all of those infected and over 80% of infected children died from the disease during the 20th century alone. It is estimated that smallpox was responsible for around 500 million deaths. So, Dex, we've looked, and this might be the all-time killer of people. In fact, if you kind of put all the other diseases together, this one pretty much takes the cake. It is a very, very, very dangerous disease. Smallpox has been around for at least 3,000 years. In 1776, and I'll just show you this. Let's see. Smallpox, the V word, helped win the American Revolution. Via nation can be a controversial topic, but America might never have won its independence without it. So can you explain that part, Dex, as far as what happened back then and why everything happened as it did?
Well, yeah, Continental soldiers that were stationed in Quebec had contracted smallpox, and it was so bad that John Adams actually had to retreat in order to retreat. And later, Washington noticed through the winter that he was losing soldiers due to smallpox, and going into, I guess this was probably the winter at Valley Forge. But then going into it, he realized that he had heard that there was a way to sort of inoculate the smallpox, and what they would do is they would scratch on the skin of healthy people, and they would take a little bit of the pus, I guess, from an infected person and place it in the scratch mark that they made, and that actually caused him to only lose like one out of every 50 soldiers going through the rest, and he was actually able to go forward with the battle. And if they'd have continued down the path they were going, he would have lost way too many men. And actually, if they'd have realized what he did earlier, we could have actually not retreated out of Quebec, and who knows, Canada might actually have been part of America.
Which all of this is, people are like, what the heck are we talking about the revolution for? It all plays into what we are talking about today and how crazy this really is. So to get into this, so now this is an eradicated thing. We have not had it around for a long time. It was weaponized at one point. This is actually a crazy story as well. Now, it says here, these are all of our notes. We wanted to make sure that we got this factual and to make sure that everything was right, because some of the facts that just came out will make you be putting 1 dot to 2 dot real quick. Let's see. It has gotten out before. The weaponization of smallpox was widely done by the two superpowers. In 1971, Russia tested weaponized smallpox at releasing into the air above an island in the Aral Sea. That's where this place is. And this is pretty crazy because there was a tiny island there. It said no boats could approach the island, but one boat 9 miles out visited regularly to collect test algae and unrelated fishing research. The woman in charge of the collection was infected, but only got sick after she had returned to the town of Aralsk. She infected more people, and 2 children died, along with the woman herself. They were all succumbed to hemorrhagic, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, hemorrhagic smallpox, a version of the disease that starts causing the blood vessels under the skin to leak blood and ends with the person bleeding from every orifice. The virus, it was now off of the island and in civilization. This could have gone very badly for the entire world. The Russian government quarantined the town and gave out 50,000 vaccines in 14 days. So they shot up everybody with the vaccine, and they basically contained it. Now, this is absolutely nuts. So it actually got out and they contained it. Then we, of course, said that this is the last time. They put it all together. They said, we're going to put this stuff away forever. So here's another question. Are there really only 2 locations holding smallpox? Here's the question asked, because a couple of days ago, everybody said, nope, there's only 2 places, and one of them just exploded, and the other had a extremely mysterious situation around that, which, by the way, I'm going to remind you of some stuff that is going to make your head spin. In July of 2014, employees found 6 forgotten vials of smallpox. They were preparing to move, when they were preparing to move a lab from the Food and Drug Administrative's Bethesda, Maryland campus to a different location. The laboratory had been used by the NIH and was transferred to the FDA in 1972. So they actually found in 2014 6 vials of this virus just hanging out. In fact, it made national news. Everybody talked about it and just kind of forgot about it. So essentially they were saying, yeah, there's 2 places that have it, and then there's these random other places that people totally forgot about. And there's some that might have just gotten out. So some say, and a source says, that there were a lot of weird things around this last explosion. And the word is that some was actually stolen. Like this explosion was to get for some group to actually go in and get that smallpox virus. Some even thought that it was them themselves making it look like it was somebody else and snatching it out. Now, of course, you're not going to hear this on mainstream because they would cover it up here in a second. So again, once you hear about all of this stuff, you're going to be like, what in the heck is going on? And how big it truly is. Like, I actually I really wonder, the people that have spoke out, and going through our research, the people that have spoke out against this, quite a few of them are now not with us. And the ones that have been completely discredited. So I completely expect that I am going to be attacked after this. And you guys will be like, why? That doesn't even matter. This isn't even a big story. Just wait. It gets crazier. U.S. Army Reserve soldiers receive smallpox via nation during Vibrant Response 2019. Okay, so if the disease is completely eradicated and is only in 2 locations, why are they venating against it again? Now, if you're in the military or if you're ex-military, you'd be like, well, we got that in the military as well. True. Yes, a long time ago they did it, and military actually got it when even normal civilians didn't. But it says U.S. Army Reserve soldiers with the 76th Operational Response Command sign a smallpox vaccination follow-up during a Vibrant Response 2019 at a simulated forward operation base Jennings. So this is further proof that they are adding it back in, but get this. Governments not prepared for pandemic that could kill 80 million people, warns World Health Organization. Now, a few days ago, or at least a week ago, we showed you this map. Now, this map is based on economic loss, and it's economic loss due to a pandemic. This actual image is from the World Health Organization and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. When you look at this, what I pointed out and what I pointed out before is that all of the states that were not affected, so in this percent GDP loss in the green 0%, are all allies. And every one of the red states and all of the other states that are actually having damage or reconstruction going on are our enemies. Now, if you look at these little tiny dots here, all these green places, they are countries that are friendly with the U.S. This, of course, is Saudi Arabia. Over here is Japan. Over here is Australia. Over here is New Zealand, of course. Over here is France and Europe. So you kind of get the picture. Canada, Alaska. These are all the green areas. And this is a real predicted country vulnerability to pandemic economic loss. And for whatever reason, too. This is the predicted numbers of the GDP losses to each country. So this doesn't play as much into it as once you find out all of the other stuff. So again, the Russian Viral Research Lab storing anthrax Ebola hit by gas explosion. Pretty weird. It says a gas cylinder at a major Russian research lab exploded on Monday and caused a fire. The explosion at a state research center for virology and biotechnology, also known as Vector, was in that room that was undergoing repair work. Vector houses dangerous pathogens, including anthrax, Ebola, and live specimens of smallpox. The mayor of the town said that the explosion posed no biological or any other threat to the surrounding population. One construction worker was taken to the hospital to be treated for burns and minor injuries. And this is a research lab in Siberia that stores dangerous pathogens, including smallpox, anthrax, Ebola, and of course, the bubonic plague. So this led to a fire. Here's the crazy part. Some sources are saying that something was missing after the fire was put out. Some say that there's tons of rumors out there. There's tons of alleged things like that there were an actual kind of conflict that happened on the ground at this location. Like there were people there, having a conflict with other people. This is a top... This is a very secure place, where I would assume. Now, this is the actual facility. Doesn't look that secure, actually. Now that I'm looking at it, looks like a much needed updatable building. So this is their equivalent of our CDC over in Atlanta, which has, top of the line, state of the art containment facilities. It looks like you could literally drive up right here, jump over a fence, and then go right over. Now, this is the even crazier part. U.S. to purchase $170 million in smallpox vaccines for stockpiling. This even gets weirder because they're not just buying 170 million. They have essentially gotten a check wrote, a blank check for specifically smallpox Vs for the amount of $2.8 billion. This is an eradicated disease. This doesn't exist according to the public eye, and they are about to spend $2.8 billion. Just to show you, this is backed up. We have everything backed up. This is a big deal. It says ASPR can purchase additional vaccines over the next 10 years with the target of $2 billion in procurement and surge options for up to a total of nearly $2.8 billion. It says under the agreement announced today, the HHS office and the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, ASPR, which oversees the SNS, will award approximately $170 million to Emergent Biosolutions of Gaithersburg, Maryland. It's kind of odd that Maryland comes into that, for purchase this year. So why would they be spending that amount of money, especially $2.8 billion or even $2 billion on something that doesn't exist? When we were looking at this, Dex, I just want to pull you in too. What does it look like when you see something like this?
Well, Adam, I mean, certainly something that's eradicated. We're spending all this money on vaccines that we really don't need. If there's only two places, sorry, I said the V word. If there's only two places that actually have this, and it's contained, and it's held in a secure location. So what's the worry, right? Neither of the countries are willing to give it up and destroy it. That's been a debate for a long time. It's also clear here that with the spend, that the dates on this. I mean, these things, the explosion in Russia and this procurement are within 2 weeks of each other. I mean, that's pretty important to be looking at when you're looking at the optics here and what's going on. All of a sudden, something potentially goes missing, and at the same time, we're procuring a high level of this the V shots for smallpox. Right, that's a big deal.
And it's for us and for our allies, all this. And we were even trying to do the math on how much that would mean. So $2.8 billion, that doesn't mean you get 2.8 billion people, venated. That means, each one has a cost to it. And what is even crazier, when you break down the cost it actually costs to make, it very well could add up to be about 500 million people would be vaccinated off of 2.8 billion. So that's just totally throwing that out there. But as far as the rest, this is something that was eradicated, and now all of a sudden, within 2 weeks of each other, and this is just recent, this is now, no one is pointing it out. No one is pointing it out that we are buying and potentially buying $2.8 billion worth of a nation for something that has been eradicated since the 80s. Does that mean that they expect this not to be eradicated anymore? And guess what? We are the weakest generation. Why are we the weakest generation, Dex?
Well, if they eradicated it and they quit giving out the V's nations in, I think it was 1972, there's at least 2 generations going on 3 generations that have never been inoculated, right? The other thing that we see is the diseases that have grown since the 70s to today. Many of the diseases that we all suffer from actually reduce our immunization, our ability to fight off and deal with things. And if you have a lower immunization, then you don't have the ability to actually receive um, this vaccination, because it actually is putting a virus on you. It's a similar virus to the smallpox, and they actually dip it in the virus and they scratch. I think they prick your arm like 15 times with a needle and create a sore that has that virus. And it's actually a really big deal. It's not just like getting a shot. You have to go through this process, and then you have to clean and keep the area clean with a bandage and not touch it and not let it touch any other part of your body, because you'll spread, what they're placing in place of the smallpox. That's how the vaccination works. Build up a resistance to this similar virus, and that protects you from the other one.
I wanted to put this too. It says smallpox is one of the most contagious and deadly infections known to humankind, said HHS Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, Robert Kadlec, MD. And this is a quote: "We do not know whether all samples of the virus outside of the two World Health Organization designated labs actually have been found and destroyed. At the same time, synthetic biology for technology continues to advance, and in the future could allow smallpox to be created as a bioweapon. For those reasons, the virus remains a potential threat to national and global health security. Having vaccine and treatments at the ready will be imperative for saving lives." So they're saying the World Health Organization designated labs, which are ours in Atlanta and the one that just had an explosion, it's kind of weird. One of the two places in the world. And that's pretty odd on their note. But then you get to the weird side on what happened with Atlanta just last year. And it gets even crazier. So I have been thinking about Timothy Cunningham, and I firmly believe that this man, this man was supposed to live a full life. That's what I firmly believe. I firmly believe that everyone kind of accepted what happened. I've been telling you guys I felt weird about this since day one. So he went missing. If you don't know the story, it says many unanswered questions in the death of CDC researcher Cunningham. The whereabouts of a missing Atlanta researcher are no longer a mystery. The body of Timothy Cunningham, an epidemiologist with the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, was pulled this week from Chattahoochee River. It says, but there are still so many unanswered questions about Cunningham's apparent drowning death. Was it accidental or intentional, and why? So first off, they said he committed suicide by drowning. Sort of weird. Atlanta police said Thursday that there were no indications of foul play, other than suiciding, drowning, in Cunningham's disappearance and death, though investigators don't have all the answers. It says many that have followed the case have used social media to voice a variety of theories since news of the drowning became public. Hundreds have commented on the Atlanta Journal-Constitution's Facebook, stating they don't believe in investigators. Said someone killed that man. They better not say that this educated man took his own life either. We ain't buying that lie. This man knew too much and was taken out as to not tell the world what's really going on in the CDC. This is a mainstream article, by the way. Something ain't right. Clear as day, he was set up. So, by the way, he was an epidemiologist. He responded to outbreaks. They minimized his clearance level, when at first the whole thing is, even mainstream media was asking, hey, did this guy know too much? They said it out loud, right? So then all of a sudden it changed from him being this top commander that had clearance, and by the way, he did have access to those rooms that have all of those crazy diseases. Not only that, they said afterwards, they kept making all these excuses. Then all of a sudden they pulled out, said that he was actually sad about a promotion he didn't get. Then they said that, people weren't buying that. They said, oh, well, now we just figured out this. And a friend just came out and said that he was gay and he was ashamed of himself. And this guy that he knew turned him down. So now he got turned down for the promotion, and then after that didn't work, oh, he got turned down by a guy, and he ended up, being a, homosexual or whatever, and he got turned down, and he was sad about that, so he killed himself. But then it goes even further. So here's the craziest part. This all was not, he had his keys, his dog, everything was at home, including his running shoes. The guy apparently like barefoot walked it down and drowned himself, whatever. That's weird enough. But then when you get to the part where he tells his neighbor to delete his number out of his phone. Now, if you were in trouble, you knew that somebody was about to take you out, what would you do? The people that you like and love, you would tell them, like, I've got some really bad people after me, delete my number. If they know that I've talked to you, they might take you out just in case. They might tie some strings up. Now, listen to this. I can't help to remind you guys. And the point of this is I think that there's something way bigger than any of us know. Any of us. Like, this is huge.
The mysterious disappearance of a CDC scientist. Timothy Cunningham is an epidemiologist in Atlanta and has been missing for more than 2 weeks.
He left work early on February 12th, saying he felt sick. Omar Villafranca has more on the search to find him.
Investigators returned to the woods around Timothy Cunningham's house Monday, searching for more clues.
I'm not so sure what else we can do with that area.
His family found his wallet, his car, even his beloved dog, all left behind in his Atlanta home.
Timothy
who he took everywhere, by the way. He took absolutely everywhere. That dog did not leave his side, even if he was going to the grocery store. And some say he even visited work with him to the levels and floors that he could bring him.
Unaccounted for since the 12th.
Cunningham's father, Terrell, drove from Maryland to Georgia after not hearing from his son for 2 days. His parents and other family members have been putting up missing posters throughout Cunningham's neighborhood, and they're trying to get the word out about his disappearance through the media.
Which, by the way, his family did not believe and still does not believe the official story. They just said he was way too happy, had nobody ever saw, even if he was ashamed,
he has such
he wouldn't
a history
do it.
Of being so responsible and dependable, that I think that is what puts us all in such disbelief.
Cunningham graduated from Morehouse College and earned advanced degrees from Harvard. The 35-year-old CDC scientist reportedly lived alone. His next-door neighbor, Viviana Torrey, says Cunningham said something odd to her husband the day he disappeared.
He told my husband to tell his wife, me, to erase his cell phone number from my cell phone.
Police do not suspect foul play, but they also
Erase his cell phone number erase his cell phone number from my cell phone.
Police do not suspect.
Tell his wife, me, to erase his cell phone number from my cell phone.
Police do not suspect.
Is anybody remembering all this? There is something so huge here, and I think that Timothy might have known. He worked at the floor. In particular, he was the epidemiologist. He dealt with outbreaks of this exact kind, and now all of a sudden we are buying millions, if not billions of dollars in smallpox via nations when it has been eradicated since 1980. So that's why I said that this should be shared. People should know about this. And just in the slight chance that you share it with somebody that shares it with somebody that knows, they can reach out to us and tell us what the facts are. You know, we always say, do your own research, take everything with a grain of salt. As far as this goes, we have linked all of the articles that back up what we're saying. It just seems very, very, very odd. Again, this gentleman worked and was a commander epidemiologist at the CDC, one of the only other places. There's only two, Atlanta, where he worked, and this Russian lab. Now, all of this other stuff is going down with the via nations, all this other stuff. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. Smallpox is not to be messed with. It is one of the deadliest diseases ever to grace our earth. Dex, am I missing anything?
Now, the only other thing, like we keep saying it's only in 2 locations, and then of course there were the missing vials or the found vials that they realized were missing. There is, you got to look at it like we have allies, and World Health Organization worked with us to basically bring all of the pathogens into one location on U.S. soil. They presumably the same happened with the Russian, or back at that time Soviet Union allies, and that's why we sort of, the 2 superpowers basically locked this stuff up on each one holding it, so that they sort of had balance of power. The one oddball here is North Korea, and a lot of people have been saying, a lot of defectors that have come out have said, oh yeah, they actually have it, and they've been trying to weaponize it. So that's the one question that as far as is it really out there. The only other place we potentially think might be is in North Korea, but we still don't think they have the technology yet to weaponize it, which we know the Russians did, because they did a lot of it, and I'm sure we did it as well too. I think some of the numbers were really high about how much they were stockpiling back in the day. So yeah, but if, from this explosion, if some has been taken out, and it's now going to be, easy to say, hey, someone else has it, and it's going to show up at a place or a time or an event or whatever, and we're stockpiling the VNations, that's pretty obvious. The writing's on the wall here that something may be going down.
Well, not only that, if every single human, every single person under the Allies' control is afraid of something and voluntarily says, I need the VNation, I need that, I need one, and they say, okay, well, we're going to freely provide you the VNation for this. Now, this could not necessarily mean there might not even ever be a pandemic. There might be a small controlled release, or there might be some sort of small quarantined, what do you call it? Where they lose a certain amount of people they know, and it's messed up too. Watch. They release it in a certain place and a bunch of people do. What is that going to do? Well, the rest of the country, the rest of the world will say, I want to line up. We'll be lining up to get this VNation. And that will open the door for other VNations down the road, if you guys know what I mean. They're talking about all different kinds of things, putting triggers. Now the science has gone so far ahead of anything that we had 20, 30 years ago, that they can give you a shot and change your DNA. I mean, we're talking about they have things that the public doesn't know about, and I've even talked to high up military folks. One in particular that has been at the White House several times on a personal first name basis with 3 presidents now. And this person has said, oh, there's things that will make your hair stand up as far as biological weapons on both sides. And that includes us. I mean, we've created these things too. I'm weirded out about this, because I feel there is a real connection. And when I feel like I'm publicly stating that, I just want you guys to know, like, when I feel like that the Timothy thing, it really bothers me. It's bothered me since last year. If you go back to my earliest videos when I had almost no viewers, I was covering Timothy Cunningham, and I really, really wanted to find out what the hell happened. And it seemed weird since the beginning, and then the whole story just didn't make sense. And I knew, and it's only because of his position that people had interest in it. But even then, I knew. I was like, something is going to come back around. Something is going to loop back around to this. There's something out there. Why would you tell somebody to delete your phone number? By the way, that's not the only... The woman is one. The other gentleman said he went from across the way and said, hey, delete my phone number. Telling him to delete his phone number. The white gentleman with glasses, if you haven't seen that clip as well. Same guy. Same thing. Why would you tell somebody that? I would think that you were trying to save their life. That, if they're going to look into his phone, he knows what the government does. They'll look into the phone. They'll look at any connections. They'll look at other folks' phones around and see who's connected. See if this man talks to that person a lot. If they are connected, then there would be a tiny little chance. See, the thing is what we don't realize is the upper echelons of these governments, they do things that we can't even imagine. Like the real Men in Black, the real secret agents, the real 0007. These are people that have done some horrific things. They are the people that actually, spend 7 years in a position as a mole for a government. Like, it's their whole position to do something like that. They might live an entire life as a sleeper cell, or they, go through 15 years of school and live somewhere, all with the eventual goal to move up the ranks to be right next to a leader. And then we've had that happen in history where 15 long years of a position to move up the ranks, and the government actually helped in every which way they could for that person to get promoted, get right next to the guy, and then go and then walk out. So what is crazy is not fiction, it's fact. The fact of all of this is there's some really creepy stuff behind everything regarding biological everything. I've shown you over the last 6 months how they have ramped up all of the biological testing. We just saw them do a biological test at the bank. Before that, HDS, Human Domain Services, has been advertising in Georgia, in North Carolina, in Alaska even, Florida, Massachusetts, California, Nevada, Texas, Seattle, Oregon, Portland, and Salem, New York, New Jersey. All of these places have had these crazy, weird 3-day drills where they have real responders and everything else, but they also have people that get paid anywhere from $100 to $500 for 3 days to pretend like they are, injured, bleeding, full makeup and all, so they can practice. And they're all decontamination lines. Before, these were totally focused on explosives. Now they are completely focused. And by the way, they were focused on that because we had several. Boston, we had that, the marathon. That was a horrible event. Boom. We had September 2001, it was a big and other. So they practiced around certain things depending on what the big threat was then. Now it's something chemical related. Then we had that after they say we've been practicing for months at that bank, they said, well, we're practicing for a vehicle crashing into something, blowing up, and exerting chemicals all over the place. And then we read that story and they say in the video, they say in the interview, well, we've been practicing for this for months, and we finally got together and we've been organizing it for months. And then we see the arrest of a U.S. Marine getting arrested and finding out this plot of running a vehicle into something and exploding it with chemicals. So he's not the only one. There's multiple, and something is on the way. So I hope it's not smallpox. I hope it's all none of this. I really do. But when you start opening up your mind to some of this stuff, and when you start seeing the connections, it gets really, really creepy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Dex, you have anything to say?
No, Adam, I just think that everything we put together here and connecting these dots, it's really eye-opening. I know I said that earlier, but you really need to share this out, let other people know what's going on. Let's all be aware of what's happening right underneath our nose, right?
Just the two things there are the main important things. Okay, this is an eradicated virus, and we are already spending $170 million. We are going to be possibly spending upwards of $2.8 billion. We've already got the check wrote for it, for a virus that doesn't exist. They just started vaccinating again. Something is going on. So I hope just that information alone gets out, and we have links to back it up. We have the actual government data. The World Health Organization saying that all of these other places are going to have this pandemic. It's all over the place now. And I think something leaked out that wasn't supposed to. With that Russian lab, everything that went on, all this stuff is really adding up. So I hope everyone stays safe. And I just can't I can't say enough about it. Let's see here. All right. Well, I really am praying for all of you guys. I hope you have much love. If you do want to help support us, you can do so. You can end up going through one of our affiliates. We have EMP Shield that will protect you against an EMP. That is something that the Homeland Security and DoD is currently using. They are working directly with them to secure our grid. And then if you do want to protect yourself personally, well, with all this stuff going on, I would get gas masks. You do not have to spend $1 million on gas masks. We have actually connected some ones that we recommend down below. Or even if you go through, I would get some. Even if you don't get it through us, get it some from anybody. I would say even go into one of those, the Army surplus stores and look at their physical ones and try them on. Another thing too is if we end up having to wear them at all, ever, you want to get one that's actually comfortable and can put on your face. They have children's models as well. If you look for it, make sure to look for those online too. Some of them are way too big for kids. And then, yeah. And if you do want to protect yourself against EMP and things like that, go through EMP Shield. It is the world's first and only EMP protection device. You can get it for your home, vehicle, generator, and your solar system. So check it out, marfugelnews.com/EMP. If you want to look at gas masks and support us at the same time, you can go to the description. Otherwise, I would just go to Amazon and get them in general. Protect you and your family. Dead serious. This is something that, we are trying to expand for one reason, and that is to try to get more and more people out there that are gathering this information. So we appreciate your support. It's not required. And we will keep going. I guarantee you after this video, there's going to be a lot of crap. I mean, like, I feel like even after some of the other previous ones, like Hot Musket and all this other stuff, all these callers, it's only further putting the target right on my back. So you guys need to back me up. You guys need to help me. I need to get other faces on the show too, so it's not just me. They're going to try to take me out any way they can. So again, we need more reporters. We need more people sitting in my chair so we can still keep getting all of this stuff out. So much love, you guys. Thanks, Dex. I appreciate you.
Hey, Adam, real quick, I just thought of something. You're talking about gas masks. Who just ordered a whole bunch of gas masks this year, numerous times?
Oh my God, we didn't include that.
Yeah.
So
somebody just hit me up on Discord and reminded me that too, but you said it, and I'm like, wow, that's a key point.
We just did a show on this.
Yeah.
There was over 40,000 gas masks ordered just for one little location, and we got the inside knowledge days before they actually reported it. Did they? And we got it from the person who actually did the delivering, and they basically looked at the docket and said, why do they need 4,000? They said on paper they only needed 1,000 for like repairs or something like that. We did a whole show on it. So they're ordering gas masks and things like this. They're preparing for something huge. And we're not going to be prepared for it. We're going to be caught with our pants down, essentially. So I really hope that everybody gets their stuff together and has a plan, and has the supplies in your house to actually seal everything up. If you're going to bug in, do that. Look, there's so much resources online. There's people like, Prepper Nurse One who tell you what kind of stuff like that. Alaska Prepper. There's all sorts of folks that are actually doing things just like that. So I love you guys. Have a great night. Be safe. Be prepared. And Marf out. And don't forget, if you want to read any of these articles, you can actually go to marfugelnews.com. marfugelnews.com. If you don't believe us, you can go read it for yourself. We back ourselves up.
When the fire starts, when the fire starts. You want to know what's going on? What's really going on when it happens? Go to marfugelnews.com and get Marfugel alerts along with a Discord invitation where you can find your local state group and get together with the Fugel fam. You'll find fast friends where you'll share prep and intel, and there's even special groups for former and current military. But don't try and steal the valor of those who have really served. It won't go well for you. The Marfugel fam is waiting for you.